Hey Computer, play About Bees podcast.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode, another award-winning episode, another great episode of About Bees, Culture, and Curiosity with Ron, Miksha, and
Bidzina.
Bidzina. It sounded like you forgot your name for a moment there.
Yeah. I'm kind of jealous of the people with the shorter names. So
okay,
trying to
use up more airtime by pausing before you say your name. That gets everybody's attention too. Pauses are worth a lot because they stop, they listen. What's he going to say? And then there it is, your name. So how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful morning here in Calgary.
Yeah, it is for this time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you been out and about?
I have not been out and about as much as I'd like, just been taking the dogs out for a walk and stuff.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, when I wrapped up the bees in October, it was like mid-October, I thought, man, it's going to be forever until I open them up. But we're just right around the corner. We're going to...
just 100 days.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It's a pretty big corner when it's a 100-day long corner. But, I guess you could open them up in about 60 days or so. That would be the end of February. Nah, you'd want to wait a little longer, sometime in March. So we've got right around the corner. Spring, the days are definitely getting longer. I checked that out. And yesterday was 2 minutes shorter than today. So we've gained 2 minutes of daylight. And if that doesn't inspire and excite a person, I don't know what would. It's just fantastic. Instead of having 3 hours of sunlight, we now have 3 hours and 2 minutes of sunlight up here in Calgary.
That is actually fantastic news.
That's good news. Yeah, that's really good news.
Sometimes you're like, oh, wow, look at that sunset. It's beautiful. And then you look down, you look up, and it's gone.
I wonder where it went.
Yeah, where did it go? What? That 2 minutes is going to come very handy.
Yeah, so there we have it. But this is a short time of the year. We are looking a new year, 2025. It's coming up right away, like in moments, and we're pretty excited about that. A whole new year coming ahead. This past year was pretty exciting. There was one piece of news that really caught my attention that I think is really important to people who are interested in ecology and bees in general. And that is, according to the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, they think that the invasive huge hornet or wasp called the murder hornet or the murder wasp has been eradicated from North America. I hope that's right. These were big bugs, and they were known for attacking colonies of bees in the wild or in hives, and probably lots of other insects too. They don't belong here. They probably arrived on a cargo ship within the last 3 or 4 years. They were spreading around through the southern part of British Columbia near Vancouver and across the border into the state of Washington. But they appear to have been captured and eradicated. Sorry for the bugs. They have to die, but it's really good that they're not with us anymore here on this continent.
Now, the hornet is such that specific one, and I guess all other wasps too. They're very interesting because on one hand, they're vicious, they're predators. They're pretty much predators of bees, right?
Yeah, of a lot of different types of insects, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of different type of insects, and but then they also have a bunch of different weak points as well. As I've heard that one of the defense mechanisms bees have against hornets is them wrapping themselves around them like a ball and killing So I was just like, how is that a way to kill them when they're so powerful? How did the hornets not figure that out?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I guess that they can't survive a certain temperature. And since they can't survive that, then they, I don't know. You know what? That's a really good question. What's happening there is that they have evolved inside of Asia alongside the Apis cerana, which is a relative to Apis mellifera. Apis mellifera is the western honeybee that we keep. Apis cerana is the Asian honeybee, which is very similar, but has a few different types of personalities, social and biological differences between our bee. They still both make lots of honey, so people keep Apis cerana as a honeybee in Asia, but those bees, because they had lived alongside the wasps for so long and had been attacked and invaded by them, had developed a system of surrounding a wasp really tightly and basically suffocating and heating and cooking the invasive wasp before it would eat all of the bees. So somehow the bees realized that they could use that as a defense. Now, why the wasps themselves weren't able to reproduce offspring that could take on higher temperatures, maybe that's still evolving. Maybe that they haven't reached that point yet. So this behavior might be newer than or it might just not be necessary, because by the time they reach that point in their lives, then the wasps are kind of expendable anyway. So if a few of them die because they're captured and cooked, then it doesn't really matter to the survival of the whole nest. So it wouldn't be something that would be bred out in the wasp family. So that's how they defend themselves. And our western honeybees do know how to do that. But these are big creatures that will fly near colonies of bees and other insects. And they're so huge and so mean, so vicious, that they will bite, just chop the heads off of bees midair and then gobble them up as fast as they can. And if a human tries to intervene with that, then the person can get stung. And if you get stung by a murder wasp, it's bloody murder. They are just capable of a single sting killing a good proportion of populations. So they are something that's somewhat frightening. I don't know if that is something that was developed to protect their nests exclusively from humans, or if there are other marauding creatures in Asia that would also be attacking. But anyway, that's the way they are.
So the wasp that we were talking about, it's different from these killer hornets that were discovered in Oregon and Washington.
What wasp is that we're talking about that are different? We're talking about them.
Okay, wasp, hornets, it's interchangeable.
Well, you know what? I honestly do not know exactly the differentiation between those two terms, but they're both members of the Vespa, VESPA family. So in that regard, they're very closely related. And right. I know that hornets can have many different species, and wasps can too. And I don't know if wasp is a subspecies of hornet, if hornet is another name for different types of wasps. You know, we have the yellow-faced hornet. We also have the killer or murder wasp, and we have the giant Asian wasp that's now invading parts of Asia, parts of Europe, not Asia. Sorry, they came from Asia, and they've reached as far as England already. They've been spotted in England, so beekeepers there are pretty nervous about this.
So this is this a climate thing, or why are they developing in Asia?
Why did they develop in Asia? I think it's an isolation thing. Okay. You know, if you look at certain islands or you look at Australia and look how different the creatures are in Australia than they are in North America, for example. There are no buffalo roaming freely in Australia, and there are no kangaroo hopping around in North America. So they have developed over millions of years into separate, it developed separately to suit the particular niche, the climate, the zone, the area that they're in, plus the predators that they have to face. So we in North America have wasps that are native to North America, but they aren't this huge, vicious wasp that they found and hopefully have actually eradicated from the west coast of North America. But I can't say that it's a climate thing because they could survive in our climate very well.
Okay. Because why I bring that up is I'm kind of fascinated by these creatures. They harvest them in Asia.
They harvest wasps.
They harvest wasps and hornets in Asia. Yes.
Well, tell us about that. What do you know about them harvesting wasps?
The videos that I've specifically seen, I want to say they're either in Vietnam or parts of China, but they could be all over the place. But anyways, in the video, they essentially what they do is they create a wasp nest in the wild, or maybe
who is they create?
You could say the wasp keepers.
Wasp keepers, okay.
Yeah, beekeepers.
So do they keep them like we keep honeybees? They keep wasps?
Some of the videos that I've seen is they would create special locations for them in the wild.
Okay.
And then they would.
If man is creating a special location, is it still in the wild? To me, that would no longer be wild because man has created the special location.
Well,
definition of in the wild. What does that mean, in the wild?
Away from civilization, because these are they are giant colonies that they're growing, and they cannot be grown in the city. These are so
giant colonies of wasps created in the wild by humans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the other method is they just find them in the wild, like naturally, and one of the methods that they do this by is they bait one of the scouts by leaving meat or whatever. They love meat. They'll leave a little piece of meat, and as it's chewing, it's using its little mandible or little things, its teeth, jaws, or to bite off the meat. The person that baited the wasp, the scout, will go with a little plastic bag like that he ripped off a plastic, this little plastic strip, and they will tie it kind of like a ribbon in between the back of the stinger abdomen and the body, where that little slit is.
No, wait a minute. Walk me through this again. We have a farmer who finds a wasp. It's one of these big murder wasps or something like that.
That's right.
And they catch them, and they tie a yellow ribbon around the old bee's bum, and then they let it go.
That's right. I will include a picture for everyone. There's not one right now for us to see, Ron.
That could be millions of pictures if you're going to include a picture for everyone.
No, just of what I'm exactly saying. But that's exactly what's going on. They will bait wasp in, and they will tie a little ribbon of plastic wrap, something white, is something very bright color.
Okay.
Because everything is like a green.
I'd go with the yellow ribbon. Yeah.
Well, it's green. So yellow might blend in because everywhere you look, it's green. It's a nice jungle.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So then this hornet has its fill. It flies off like nothing. It's nothing to it. This little plastic, and they follow it to its home by watching its direction.
So this is like the old-fashioned bee lining that you catch you put out a little jar of honey. This may be like the lid on a jar of honey with a little bit of honey on it, and you wait until some bees show up and start stealing your honey. And then you follow them and go whichever direction they're flying. And then when you lose them, you just wait again with your lid and your little bit of honey, and new bees will find that. And then you watch them fly off and you follow them, and eventually you get closer and closer to the nest until you're standing right there in front of the nest. So they're doing something similar here. They are tracking, they're following. Why don't they just put like a little GPS tag instead of a little yellow ribbon around the old wasp bum? I think that would be a lot easier to track.
Some of the videos I came across, they were using drones to follow the wasp.
Okay.
Back home.
Okay.
So they were getting a little bit high tech.
Yeah. So those are not drone bees, but drones. Droning drones.
Yeah, electronic e-drones, EB.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, no. So once they get to the nest, right? So they get this giant colony. Then, they wear these crazy astronaut suits, like nothing I've seen. Like it's pretty much a beekeeper suit with a ventilator. They have this ventilator thing because it's completely sealed, and it's I would say
what color are these suits?
They range from all sorts of colors.
So it could be like Darth Vader. They could be entirely black, and they could be going.
Yeah, it is. It is like a Darth Vader suit. Imagine if Darth Vader had a see-through mask, though.
Yes. All right.
If it was like plastic see-through.
And they're using this suit so they can scare the wasp into submission.
That's their first attempt, and when that doesn't work, they bring out their butterfly nets.
Oh, then they're really getting aggressive. They brought out the butterfly nets, folks. We've got to be careful. Here come those guys in the Darth Vader uniforms. Okay, so
that's literally what they do.
They followed these bees to. Now, where's the create a spot part come in? The bee farmer, the wasp farmers who have created a spot.
They also do the same thing. They will go to their farmed location, and they will have the same. They will have the same suit on.
Okay, out the same butterfly net.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a small butterfly net they get, and they don't want to squish these wasps. So wasps,
why wouldn't you want to squish them?
They're harvesting. They're going to eat them. They're going to eat the wasps. Oh, yeah. So they're going to kill the colony entirely.
Ooh. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So
if they do that, we'll be overrun by honeybees.
I don't know.
Well, they're kind of keeping the honeybee population in check, aren't they?
Well, I at the end of the story, I'm hypothesizing that they've been breeding these crazy wasps because of their because of their appetite for them.
Okay, they have an appetite for these killer wasps. Okay, I'm with you. Following you through.
Yeah. So they get to them and they start digging them. It's in the ground. It's like, by the way, they make these nests. It's burrowed like underneath.
No way. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they would dig under the ground to make a nest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So they start digging it out, and these wasps or hornets are getting pissed off. They're flying everywhere, and as it's flying out, you have a team of people standing right at the entrance with these butterfly nests, just going back and forth, catching 5, 6 at a time, dropping them in a container. Catching 6 at a time, dropping them in a container. I'm not sure what the liquid that they're using, but they're drowning them. That's their method of killing, and then they get all the larvae intact. The more
so they have to dig up the ground to get to these larvae. Then
they have to get to the ground, and it's in the paper mache wax stuff that the wasps make. The combs, and they're giant. Some of them range from, they could be anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half. Maybe even like 2, like in the middle, where the largest comb is. It could be even 2 feet long.
Wow. So folks, that's we're talking about over half a meter in length.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
And it seems like I'm not exactly sure, but I'm guessing, just like with everything else, the more intact they bring these things out, the higher price they get for them. So they're very careful. They're very delicate with how they get it out. And at the end, when they, kill the entire colony, get all these wasps, they will get to the queen, and she will be in the middle of this giant wasp, giant nest. And
just one queen?
Just one queen, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Well, I don't know. It could be more, but I'm guessing
could be 2.
They usually, but yeah, and these larvae are still alive.
Okay, and the larvae are still looking for food, so they're wiggling around in there, but they're starving to death as the humans destroy the whole thing. And then I suppose some of the more creative farmers are taking the whole nest, paper mache and all, and then you could shake out all the larvae, and then you take that paper and you could probably chop it up, soak it in water, dry it, and make it into a little mat that you could write on, like use your blood as ink, and you could write, and it could be like, a really special little note like, "Dear folks, we hope you enjoy these murder wasp carcasses, and this little note that we've included is made authentically from their own paper," just as people used to, like, thoughtfully slaughter an elephant so they could get the one trunk that they could use to store their umbrellas by the door in. So this would be very similar. I think these people are doing quite a service for ecology out there.
They are doing a free service for ecology. But then again, going back to my previous point, what if they've been, indirectly, breeding these things and making them stronger and stronger every year without...
Oh, yeah. They could be. Sure. That's what, when I talk, remember we talked to Patrick from Cameroon, and he told us that the Africanized bees, which he grew up and when he was a teenager, he was helping his grandfather with them. He said they were so incredibly mean because they had been bred to be defensive over the years. And that was how they kept animals and humans from attacking their nests. So they got meaner and meaner. So these wasps, they may be, at some point in the future, some poor, I am just going to guess, let's picture some poor geophysicist is out there looking for a gold mine in the jungle and gets attacked by these killer wasps, which were bred to be meaner, much meaner than they should have been. And then the company he's working for will sue the farmers for everything they have. And that's how they'll get the land. And once they get the land, then they'll be able to build a huge gold mine on that property without interference from the locals, because they were responsible for breeding these killer wasps and making them extra mean, resulting in the death of that poor geophysicist who was out there just, innocently trying to find gold.
You think that's a possible thing that could happen?
It's certainly a scenario.
Right. Yep. That is definitely a scenario. Yes. I don't know. I just, it's wild. They're so powerful.
I think you're just hosing me here. You're just hosing me with all these stories about people raising kids. Like, I can't believe that for a minute. They're not doing that for real.
No, they are. They are. It's millions of views, and the videos are all in like, I don't even know how I found them, to be honest with you. They're like,
they found you. They found you, Bidzina. It was karma. It chased you down. You were doom scrolling, and it just came to you.
Maybe because I try to cater my algorithms in a particular way.
Okay. All right. So you don't get any of these conspiratorial, far-off stories that can't be true.
No, I don't
No,
do any
you don't.
oil stuff.
Good. Okay, good. That's refreshing. I'm glad to hear that. So, Bidzina, then, you've walked us through a really interesting story of farmers raising killer wasps in order to eat them and probably sell them to other people, and inadvertently killing geophysicists who are looking for gold at the same time. All right. So, are they related to the wasps that we were able to eradicate from we being the collective we, because I had nothing to do with this, folks, that people were able to eradicate from the west coast of North America? Are they related?
I think they are because
If they are, then why aren't we eradicating all the ones that are over there?
I think that's not going to be possible, right? Because sure, what would that cause then? What would that do if we get rid of the hornets?
Well, I guess it would make the lives of all those invasive honeybees a lot nicer.
It would, but don't farmers here in Alberta also release wasps as a form of pest control?
No, they don't.
No, I've heard that they do. I've been telling people that a lie that
you've been telling? I think you have been. I wouldn't say it's a lie. Like, it's probably a really creative fabrication, but a genuine lie is a little different. Like it.
So where's that coming? Aren't they releasing ladybugs though? Kill aphid.
They could be releasing ladybugs. I mean, we found half a dozen in our backyard here in the middle of the city. So yes, they had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, so I heard that the same for the pest control for ladybugs, they do the same thing with wasps. Wasps will go out and kill all sorts of pests without damaging the crop.
Okay, this is news to me, at least for here in Alberta. I've never heard that story before, but then I've only met you about 6 months ago, so you have a lot of stories up your sleeve, I'm sure. So that's kind of my big 2024 end of the year story, is the eradication from North America, hopefully, of the invasive killer wasp. And they were a real serious concern. I think everybody's celebrating that, that they're no longer here. Even probably the wasps' mothers are happy that their children aren't, coming into here and making a bad name for the rest of the family. So did you hear any good news, any big news, any interesting news over the last year, since this is towards the year end that we're going to be releasing this podcast? What kind of thing do you want us to remember going out for the year?
Well, one of the biggest news agenda item has been in the beekeeping world anyways, has been the ruling of importing packaged bees from the US, and they've ruled against it. And I think they've tried to have done this before. So how many times have they ruled against this? It's been banned for the last 40 years or?
Yeah, we have not been able to bring packages in from the United States for about 40 years. That's correct. Yes. Yeah, so they ruled against allowing them to come in again.
Yeah.
So they keep ruling against this. Why did they rule against it? Like, what's wrong with those packages coming into the United States?
Well, I'm thinking about it, and my thought process, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, without thinking, that it's too political. And the biggest area I think is they can't control the border because it's such a large exposed border. And if they open that up, it'll be so hard to control versus with planes. These planes are coming into a one single airport. The airport gets inspected at the airport, and then it goes out from there. So I'm guessing that has a lot to do with it. I'm not exactly sure though, because because it is, if a beekeeper in the US really wanted to sneak some bees in, they could be sneaking bees in. Let's say if a beekeeper wanted to bring in a bunch of bees in to sell without having them inspected, that would really not go unnoticed.
Well, that's for sure. People would know right away where they were coming from. And we're
Right.
talking packages now. Queens have been recently, well, last few years, have been allowed to come in from Northern California, as well as from Hawaii for quite a few years from Hawaii. But queens are coming in and legally with the proper inspection paperwork and with the proper applications with the CFIA, the Canadian Food CFIA inspection agency. So they inspect bees as well as food. They just inspect the paperwork on the bees. The actual inspection would be taking place in the originating country. So we have packages right now coming in from Italy by air, landing in Toronto, most likely, or maybe Montreal. And we have packages arriving from Chile, probably coming into Calgary. And we have packages arriving from New Zealand, which I know come through Vancouver. So we have those airports where these bees are arriving by plane. If the bees were to arrive on the back of a truck, that'd be pretty hard to camouflage. So the trucks would be inspected as they went across the border. And there really is no way of driving a big truck full of bees into Canada without being inspected. So you would have to stop at a border inspection station because that's where the roads are. You know, you want to keep your truck on a road. You can't really start driving through fences, barbed wire, and, farmers' fields in order to bring a big truckload of honeybees in. So the honeybees coming from the United States, if they were allowed, would have to come from an inspected apiary in the USA. And the inspection would say, okay, no foul brood, which really doesn't matter too much if you're bringing in packages. No mites, which shouldn't matter too much if you are hanging up strips or miticides inside the package cages as they're arriving. No hive beetles, which shouldn't be there if you're requiring the package boxes to be made out of something other than wood and having been stored in the proper location where these beetles won't survive. So what else is there? Nosema. Yeah, we have plenty of nosema in Canada already. Foul brood, I mentioned, we already have plenty of both European and American. Varroa mite, lots of varroa mite already up here in Canada. So what are they inspecting for? Why do they not want to allow honeybees to come in from the United States in packages? It makes no sense. If they're coming in from Italy, they're coming in from Chile, they're coming in from the Pacific Ocean, they're coming from 10, 15,000 kilometers away from ecological systems that are totally alien to Canada. And yet we have swarms crossing every day of the summer from North Dakota into Saskatchewan, from Montana into Alberta, from New York State into Quebec, into Vermont into Quebec, from Maine into New Brunswick. Why are we allowing these swarms to fly 4 or 5 kilometers across the border, but we are not allowing inspected honeybees in trucks with the proper paperwork from commercial beekeepers who are doing this for a living and wouldn't dare make a mistake because they would end up in trouble and lose their business? Like, I don't understand this. What do you think is happening that for 40 years, honeybees have not been allowed to come into Canada from the United States of America?
Well, Canadians are a proud bunch, as they should be.
Not too proud to get packages from Italy. I mean, you got to sink pretty low to say, okay, I want some Italian bees from Italy.
Well,
and I say that with all due respect to my Italian neighbors because my family did come from that general part of the world anyway. Okay. So we're proud Canadians and we're not going to take bees from the Americans. No BS from the Americans.
That's right. No
No
BS.
no bees from America. Yeah.
Um,
Is that it? Is that it? That's our scientific reason for not bringing bees in is somebody has done a proudness test. Like we all took a survey and we say, nope, too proud. Can't bring them in.
Well, I think that has a factor. So it's a combination of things, and then we also have the situation of when you restrict the American beekeepers from coming into Canada, then
Yes.
the only way to get bees in is from these other places. And guess what? The only people that can bring them in are with licenses. And who have the licenses are the big honey commercial or so.
Okay, so you're sticking up for the big guy. You don't want the little guy to be bringing in bees, like the small farmer who wants 100 packages. You'd rather this business go to the multinational corporations that can do international trade with the proper licensing and certification.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is
Okay.
when you have an industry like beekeeping where the community that's in it, they're very dedicated. It's small, it's dedicated, it's loyal. And every year they're going to buy something. If you have something beekeeping related, they're going to buy it from you. So these commercials, every year it's an income stream. So if these bees are not coming from the U.S., they got to buy it from somewhere. And, where are they going to buy it from? They got to buy it from your local, from someone from Ottawa or so whoever they can get it from. So in the end, it kind of benefits local producers while hurting. It's short term, it benefits Canadian beekeepers. Long term, it pretty much destroys the beekeeping industry in Canada because of the
long term. Yes, if we look back to when the border was first closed, the number of kept colonies of bees in Canada fell by about 20%. And dozens of commercial honey farmers went out of business, went bankrupt. They couldn't survive without bringing in the inexpensive packages from the United States. But meanwhile, and I was around, I'm old, so I remember this all happening. And we were at a number of conferences and meetings where people would stand up and say, I'm from the west coast of British Columbia. I'm from Quebec. I'm from southern Ontario. We have a much nicer climate than you guys have out here in the prairies. So don't worry. We're going to raise all your queens and all your packages, and you won't have to buy from the United States. Of course, The cost was twice as much. Deliveries fell through because they couldn't produce nearly as many as we needed. And in the end, 40 years later, we're still bringing in 70,000 packages of bees now from Chile, South America, Italy, Europe, and New Zealand, Oceania. So we did not succeed in becoming self-sufficient. And there are a few queen breeders who produce local queens, but the majority of the commercial beekeepers, when they're making splits, I know one big beekeeper here in Alberta, a very, very, very large beekeeper. Not personally. I mean, he's a nice, slender man, but he's keeping like 20,000 colonies, 30,000 colonies. So he's a big beekeeper in that sense. And he set aside 4,000 colonies of bees a few years ago to do nothing but raise queens, to replace the queens in his colonies. And now I haven't talked to him about the success or, what the whole thing, what reason it was, but after about 2 or 3 years, he quit. It wasn't worth it. At least, from the perspective of an outsider, I would say if this is a smart thing to do and a successful thing to do, he would continue to do it. He's not doing it now. So that tells me that it really does not work. And he has better success bringing bees in from someplace else other than producing them locally.
Right. It's almost like, sure, you could grow potatoes in your backyard in the suburbs, but you can't compete with the potato farmers in Lethbridge.
Well, this is absolutely true. And another way of looking at it, maybe even more relevant, is you can grow figs and oranges in your on your in your sunroom in a home inside of the city of Calgary.
Yeah.
They would freeze if you put them outdoors and they would die. So you
Right.
do these special expensive systems to raise a few
Yeah.
of the product you're looking for. And it's not that different from raising our queen bees here. I know I'm going to get some hate mail from the queen producers of Canada, but I think they, in their hearts, would agree with me that it's just not a viable industry. And so many people have started into raising queens and then realized that if you are a talented, smart enough, organized master beekeeper who can produce queens, you're going to be the person making 400 pounds of honey from each hive every year out here in the prairies. And you're not going to be able to make the kind of income by raising queen bees as you could by producing honey. So I've seen a number of these people who, I'm going to raise queen bees. And like this very large operation that I described a few moments ago, they apparently are no longer producing their own queens because they can do a lot better by putting their resources into honey production than they could by raising queens. Now, probably the best solution, yes.
No, go ahead.
Do you have something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Just to wrap up my diatribe here, probably the best solution, though, is I have no question in my mind about the fact that with some effort, breeding stock can be improved, at least temporarily. And if you develop queens in a particular area, those queens are going to be, let's say, more winter hardy or more able to withstand local nuances of particular perturbations in the, cycles of rain, the type of pests that you might have in a certain area. So locally bred queens could have an advantage, but we can't produce them early enough in the year. So maybe they can be wintered at very great expense and cost and time and effort so that they would be available for the following season. Or what a few people have been doing, one big queen breeder in Saskatchewan, if I hope I'm not making a mistake on this. If I am, I'd certainly like to be corrected. But my understanding is they do the breeding here and they do the mating in a timely fashion earlier in the spring in California. So they can bring the queen bees up, not packages, just queens that have stock that's been selected from Canada. Now, that's something that can be done. So that's a possible way of producing local genetic stock, but taking advantage of the climate in another area.
So for the beekeeping community in Canada, self-sufficiency has been kind of a holy grail topic, and queen breeding at the core of it, having our own local queens.
Right. Have they ever found the Holy Grail? Like, I remember the Bible story, there being the Holy Grail was a vessel, wasn't it, that was supposed to have collected drops of blood from Jesus as he was on the cross. That's the Holy Grail. It's the receptacle, the jar, the mason jar that people were in those days holding up there, and so the Holy Grail in that sense. Now I know that there's a whole nother story. The Holy Grail is the descendants of Christ who are still with us today, and they carry the blood of Christ in their system because he had children, and that's a kind of a Dan Brown kind of a story there. But anyhow, the Holy Grail, as far as I know, they haven't found it.
No, they haven't found it.
And the Holy Grail in beekeeping, you think they found that?
Yeah. Well, in Canadian beekeeping, it seems, or I guess a gold mine. It's like, if you can get that queen breeding figured out, man, you're going to be making a lot of money.
And you could be making a lot more money by producing honey in a place that the crops can reach 400 pounds a year.
Right. But if you can figure out the queen thing, that could be a more scalable business.
Sure. Okay.
But they haven't figured it out.
Not in 40 years. So maybe if
Yeah,
they keep the border closed another 40 years, then they'll have the solution.
right, right. And so you kind of, this is, it's so rare that you can talk to someone about this that's actually lived it. Is
Oh yeah, I was a youngster. I was about 30 years old when the border closed, and
right,
I remember the hardships. And beekeepers around Nipawin, Saskatchewan, it was one of the prime areas for producing a lot of honey in Canada. And so it's in Nipawin, Saskatchewan, the northeastern part of Saskatchewan, not too far from the Manitoba border. They were producing beautiful honey, enormous crops, and virtually everybody for a while was bringing in packages, if not every year, but at least to replace their losses. And roughly a dozen big commercial beekeepers in that one town alone went under. They went broke. They went bankrupt because of a decision made by the government with basically pushed, egged on, and influenced by people who thought they could raise all the queens and packages that these people would need. Do I sound bitter? Of course not. My life itself was affected strongly by the closure of the border because I was a young man with a very young family who was raising queens in Florida, producing packages in Florida, and driving them from Florida into Saskatchewan in a very isolated area where I was the only beekeeper. So I didn't have any opportunity to affect or influence anybody else. But I did all the legal paperwork, which you were worried about, that you said was probably a showstopper. I filled out all those forms. I had everything inspected. I arrive at the border. I've got all the paperwork. I was allowed to bring my bees into a particular location where they could be immediately inspected by the provincial apiary inspector to see that everything was above board. I had the right number that I said I was bringing in, that they were disease-free, and that they were safe to be introduced into Canada. I was doing all that for a number of years, and then the border closed without me being able to raise a finger to stop any of it. So I had to give up my business in the States, and I stayed in Canada because Canada is a much better country to live in and raise children and be in than the United States. So I was very happy to stay. And consequently, after a couple of years of trying to overwinter colonies and then having a severe drought in the area that I lived in, then I put my outfit up for sale and went to university. I was 33 years old. I was an old man at the university, and I was so kind of fed up with bees by then that instead of going in and studying entomology or ecology, I took a different field, and that was earth sciences. And I was fairly good at mathematics and physics, so I went to geophysics, and that became a career then for quite a number of years. And really, they did me a huge favor. I was young enough that I could restart, rise to the top of a whole different industry, make a very good living, and enjoy my work immensely and keep bees as a hobby part-time. So in my particular case, I'm grateful that the border was closed, but I saw so many other people. One poor chap was in the Western Producer newspaper, long article about him that they found him out walking. He was walking to Winnipeg from Brandon, which would have been like a 4 or 5 day walk. And he was pretty much in a daze when they found him because he was losing his honey farm. They were, he wasn't able to afford the packages. He just had a small farm. I mean, this was a typical story. And so the stress had gotten to him and he needed help. And he wasn't the only one. As I said earlier, a full dozen commercial beekeeping outfits in one small town in Saskatchewan went broke. The effect on that town of losing that viable industry was enormous, all because of a political decision because Canadians are too proud to buy packages from the United States. I think that's bad.
That is bad. And, you mentioned all the people that went bankrupt and don't exist anymore. And, but we kind of forget about all the opportunity costs that happened due to this decision. Because, you come from a family of talented beekeepers. You yourself is a talented beekeeper, and you're not from Canada. You moved from the US to Canada, and you brought all this talent, and now you are you still a very active member of the beekeeping community.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm
How-
that talented. I wrote a book called Bad Beekeeping because I considered my beekeeping so bad that it was honored with a book called Bad Beekeeping. I'm not a talented beekeeper. I am a persistent beekeeper, and I try to learn as much as I can, but I'm not particularly talented. I'm a klutz. I'm not that great at building things and doing things like that, but I had been a beekeeper for a number of years. And as I say, as things turned, I was able to survive and do something totally different and still enjoy it. But I think your point is that, yes, I was a 20-year-old, well, early 20s person who was able to purchase a bee outfit in southern Saskatchewan with no money down from a guy who just simply wanted to dump the bee farm. He was tired of it, needed to get rid of it. And I was available, and no Canadian wanted it. It was required. Yeah, it was required that a Canadian be given preferential opportunity, and any Canadian could have stepped up and say, "I'll take that farm with no money down and pay it off over a number of years." Nobody wanted to live in that isolated little rural town in Saskatchewan and keep bees. But I thought, yeah, game on. I was, I'm going to give this a go, and I did it for about 10 or 12 years and really enjoyed being there and really learned to love the country and learned to love the area. So that turned out to be really good for me. So if you mean by opportunity costs that we lost a number of immigrants who might have come up from the United States to keep bees, there is probably that. I mean, I've had 4 children, and I've got 7 grandchildren already, with probably another 6 that will arrive sometime, maybe in the next 20 years. I'm just guessing on that one. Anyhow, very happy to be here. But interestingly, too, the number of immigrants who keep bees in Canada is amazing. For a while, almost every beekeeper I met as a youngster, almost everyone, I would say 80% of the beekeepers I met were from places like England and Holland, Germany. They were immigrants coming into Canada to keep bees, and they were not necessarily native-born Canadians keeping bees. So many of them were. There were a few second and third generation beekeepers, very good beekeepers, some of them that I really respect a lot, and they came from beekeeping families. But the majority, so many people, came from places like Holland, a Dutch beekeeper, sure. Yeah.
No, exactly. And if they want to, just kind of from your example, Canada kind of has a population issue. It seems like if we want to help the population, just bring in more beekeepers.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, we are prolific people, that's for sure. You need the free help. When you're raising, doing a honey farm, the more kids you have, the better you're going to do. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. It's such an interesting topic, and it's hard to not think about the political aspect of it.
No, it's all political. It's all political. It's impossible to separate out the importation of packaged honeybees from the United States without bringing in politics. I mean, there's no logical scientific reason. If we're worried about bugs coming in, pests and so on, then we should definitely close the border to Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Italy, and Ukrainian queens have been coming in. Bees have been coming from a lot of different countries that could be bringing in exotic pests. So we really should, in Canada, close down everything, including American bees then, and not allow bees to be moved across provincial boundaries. So Alberta beekeepers should not be going into the lower mainland of British Columbia to pollinate blueberries or to raise nukes and bring them back to Alberta or Saskatchewan for the next season. We should just clamp down on everything, maybe have permanent apiary locations that never are allowed to move. That would be a way to not stop, but definitely stall the movement of any exotic imported pests. So why aren't we doing that?
Right. No, exactly. And that's where kind of beekeepers or people get frustrated, not just beekeepers, but it's always the inconsistency with government. Great.
Good point.
We want biosecurity. Who doesn't want biosecurity? But you got to be consistent with your policies. You can't pick it. You can't cherry pick where you want to be biosecure from.
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we've had two really fascinating topics here from 2024. I hope 2025 brings us just as fascinating subjects to discuss. If it doesn't, then we're going to close down this podcast and go away. But if we still have interesting things to talk about, I think we'll keep it going a little bit longer. We did make it through a whole year. I think we should celebrate that. We released our first episodes in July, and we've been around then for about 6 months, slowly growing our audience. It is growing, so I'm really happy about that. And thank you, everybody who's been listening. It's been absolutely amazingly good to know that there is an audience out there for this kind of dribble-drabble that we're spewing here.
Well, hopefully we don't get shut down by the CFIA.
The CFIA
or the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. We're talking.
You might get shut down, but I don't think you will immediately, because I understand that
No, I mean the
packaged some
podcast.
honey. I don't think they have much to do with the information that's being distributed here, but they do have something to do with inspecting honey houses and so on.
Yeah.
And you have been processing honey in a legal food grade inspected shop, and you created a very interesting label that I just saw for the first time a few days ago. And I think that's amazing that you are moving ahead with your business. And for people who don't know this, Bidzina is involved with groups of people who are into mixed martial arts. So he has got he's discovered, found, and recognized a need for good food for these particular athletes. Go ahead with it. Tell us all about your real deal honey.
Yeah. So this is it. This is the real deal. And are we like?
So are we looking at a label here, or we're looking at a logo? For people who are listening to the audio only portion of our podcast work, we're looking at a really interesting picture. I'll read what it says: unpasteurized, real deal. Image of a bee, a happy bee with 4 wings. That's anatomically correct, so I like that. Made in Alberta honey. So do we know the honey is all made in Alberta?
It is all made in Alberta. We can 100% say that. Yeah.
And it's all unpasteurized.
Yes.
And it's all a real deal? Is it all real deal honey?
It's the real deal. It's, I wanted the marketing team to put raw there, unpasteurized, raw, real deal honey, but they only put unpasteurized. They didn't want to put raw. They thought raw.
I think they were right. They were right. Raw is just too raw of a word.
Okay. I guess
it is.
Yeah. But
I would have voted you down on the word raw. I think we don't want words like. Isn't there a case to be made for putting too many words on a honey jar? Like, let's say you're in a store and you're looking at a jar, and the jar says natural, pure, raw honey, and another jar right next to it doesn't say natural or pure or raw. Does that mean it's not natural? It's not pure? Like, these words don't necessarily mean that's what the product is, or without the words, it doesn't mean that's not what it is. So I like keeping it simple like this. And to me, the word raw, it's almost like a rude word to me. It's like, it's raw. Like, so is my meat when, my sushi was raw yesterday. So you have unpasteurized, real deal honey. And
that's right.
How long have you been packing this real deal unpasteurized honey? Is this a new product?
It's a new product since September, and we it was kind of a prototype sale we did. I'll get into that just a bit, but this was the branding that I used previously before I did Real Deal. So this is my Busy Bees branding. And this is, as you can see on here, I have unpasteurized raw wildflower honey.
Okay.
And it's a bee. This one doesn't have 4 wings, like you said, but as you can see, it's a bee that's a sun, a flower. It's a bee that's going to the flower that's also a sun in the middle.
Okay, when it only has 2 wings, it's no longer any type of a bee. It would have to be a fly. So you used a picture of a fly to advertise. Now, this is your old label, which you are not using. So the word raw is gone. The fly is gone. You now have a 4-winged insect showing up on your label. And the name Busy Bees. So your name is Bidzina, in case anyone has forgotten that very important fact. Bidzina's Busy Bees. Busy. Does anybody ever call you Busy? Is that kind of like a nickname for Bidzina?
People used to call me Bitsy or Biddy or Bid but now like I've been with just how many things I got going on. Well, everybody's got things going on. The name kind of stuck with me. Oh, look at your Busy Bee. Yeah, so but it was originally supposed to be said bees. But I didn't want to do BS. I didn't want to do B apostrophe S bees. Then it would be BS bees, bullshit bees.
Okay. Yeah.
So I changed it and I wanted the Z. I have my name Z in there. I wanted it in there. So Busy Bee, it is. That's how people.
Better than BS bees, I guess. But bees busy, that just sounds like you. But now, do you have a company called Busy Bees and then you have a product called Real Deal Honey?
That's right. So the Busy Bees is actually, it's a beekeeping company. We just sell honey as our surplus. We just have honey at the end of the year. But we're a beekeeping company specialized in traditional beekeeping service.
Good. I like that. Good for you. This is great. I like seeing this taking off like that. Yeah.
But the real deal stuff, eventually we've only launched one product, which is honey, but eventually we want, so I kind of forgot to talk about why it's called Real Deal. So my partner, Mr. Real Deal, he is a mixed martial arts fighter, an MMA fighter. He's a bit of a local celebrity here in the community, and he has a 8-win streak right now. He's lost 0 times, and
lost 0 times.
Yes, in his professional.
So have I. Actually, if we look at the world of MMA, that's how it's called. It's not MFA. Yeah. It's it's like MMA. Master of Fine Arts or Mother. No, it's MMA, Mixed Martial Arts. I have never lost a mixed martial arts fight in my entire life, and I use a wheelchair.
Well, Ron, you'll be surprised to know that there is a audience for people, ordinary people fighting in the MMA. So you might, if you want to give it a shot and break your record.
Yeah. I think I'll stay with my 0 losses for now, but I'll keep this in mind. Okay. So your friend, what is his name? Can you give us his name or his first name or?
Ramil Kamilov. And he's a fighter.
Kamenov? So you say Kolomanov or Kamilov. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, he's a Russian guy. He's born in Tatarstan. He's a Tatar native.
Okay. Yes.
Or I'm not exactly sure. I think he's also from Kazakhstan. He has some family from Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan is supposed to be such a beautiful country. So, okay. So we have.
So now that's a little side note. I don't even know why I need.
Yes.
But Yeah, so Mr. Real Deal,
Into his name. Yeah.
yeah, so he gets brought up onto stage as Mr. Real Deal, and he has a lot of athletes that follow him, and
Yeah.
one,
Well, if he's unbeaten in 8 competitions, like that's really good.
yeah, and so eventually we want to move into products like this. This I saw this, and I even tried it. I bought both of them at Jugo Juice.
Okay, Bidzina, you're going to have to describe for the listeners what it is that you're talking
right.
about this and that you bought this.
Yeah. So on display here, we have 2 different products. I'll start with the first one. We have the Honey Stinger Waffle. And the Honey Stinger Waffle, as I said, I purchased it and I tried it out at Jugo Juice, if anybody wants to try it. It's a thin wafer waffle. You get one inside of each container. It was like $4 for one of these.
Okay.
Yeah, and it very thin. It has some.
But that's Canadian money, so $4 Canadian is like 2 cents. So we have these beautiful packages labeled Honey Stinger, so that must be the brand because there's a Honey Sticker waffle, which looks like the Dutch, like this reminds me of the Dutch coffee waffles that you would, like if you go to a Dutch restaurant, you can order a coffee and then they will put a waffle on top of it that warms up and it usually has something soft inside. It looks beautiful. And in this case, it has honey inside.
Yes, it's very, I would say half a thickness of a wafer. And inside of it's honey. It's very crunchy on the outside. It's hard. When you pick it up, you can feel that it's hard. And then when you break it, it breaks very enjoyably or whatever, satisfying break. Bite into it, chews. And there's all sorts of health benefits associated with it. And it's a organic product, they say. And it's sold in health stores, So, and the other one, on the other side, we have the Honey Stinger Energy Chews. And they were pretty much, as they say, energy chews, but they are flavored with honey, I believe.
Okay. So if you bite into a honey chew, like these remind me of little round, soft candies that are probably, they could be stuffed full of something on the inside. Are they? Or are they like a gel product all the way through?
It's a gel product all the way through and sweetened with honey.
Okay. And they're made it with different fruits because in the same picture that has these 2 products, the energy chew, there are little sliced up pictures, little sliced up strawberries and oranges and raspberries in the photograph. And then nearby are these little round droplets that they look delicious. They look good. Okay. So you're stealing this idea.
What happened was when I saw this, it was just like an inspiration moment of like, wow, look at all these different athlete tech that could be made. But before I even had, I found this, my original thought was taking honey and mixing it with creatine. And what we got over here is
Nick.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. This is creatine. This is Creapure. As we all know,
Creapure, you said, right? Is that what it's called? Creapure?
Yes, it's that's what they advertise down there. As you can see, Creapure, there's a couple different forms of creatine, and this is their source. So ultra pure creatine monohydrate. And
wow.
So
what good is creatine? Like it just like we're looking at a picture of a jar that says 100% German creatine, and so it's made in Germany, and it's and inside is a white powder.
Inside's a white powder. Yep.
And this would be a totally tasteless, completely disinteresting, completely boring white powder because it's made in Germany and the Germans don't know how to cook anything with flavor in it.
Well, now
Is that right?
say that I didn't think about that, but that they do have an ability to make things tasteless, and they did a very good job with this product.
Okay. So with my disability, my muscles are wasting away, and I had tried creatine some time ago, like a few years ago, and I just found it so like chewing on chalk. And they say, you dissolve it in a glass of water and then you drink it. And I might as well have taken somebody's chalk from, a child and that was diligently working on a sidewalk somewhere and stolen their chalk and chopped it up in little tiny pieces. And then what do I have? I've got this, ugly powder that I'm trying to drink. I don't like it.
Right. Well, this is not that. If I were to give you a glass of this with the recommended dosage, and I could tell you, you would probably not know that there's creatine inside of it. Other than
no way.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Germans have they've outdone themselves in blandness, in like a bland product for eating. Okay.
That's right. They, which is.
Does it have like a cabbage aftertaste or anything like that would distinguish it as? No? Okay, so it's just pure bland. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was thinking.
Okay. Yeah, so you have this product.
Yeah, so just to kind of do a little overview, creatine, it's good for increased energy production, enhanced muscle.
Oh, I need that.
Enhanced muscle strength and power, faster recovery.
I need that. Yes.
Yeah. And
okay.
And also in some cases improve cognitive functions.
Oh, I definitely need that.
Yeah.
I'm on that slippery slope downwards. Yes. Sounds super great. Yes, my brain is. Mm-hmm. Well, right along with my body.
We're going to have to maybe put you on lion's mane or something.
What is a lion's mane?
It's another vitamin supplement.
And you guys, you young people, you really know your stuff. I don't have any clue what you're talking about. Lion's mane. So there are people on safari, like instead of just shooting an elephant and taking home a foot to put their umbrellas in, or raising killer wasps in order to digest their larvae or make paper out of their little nests. Instead, they are eating lion's manes. This is probably new to everybody listening.
Sorry, I should specify. Lion's mane mushroom. It's a mushroom.
Oh, it's the name of a mushroom. Okay.
It looks like a lion's mane, the way it grows.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So creatine it has to be activated by something, and it needs some sort of carbohydrate. So honey is a great carbohydrate. And I don't know if athletes do this, but I've heard that bodybuilders, after an intense workout, they will eat a handful of hard chew candy, or just to replenish them. So, sorry, are you talking there, Ron? I think.
No, I'm not talking. I'm just kind of nodding my head and agreeing with you, and my lips are moving when I do that. Some people can nod their head without their lips moving, but mine just automatically, they just kind of snap open and close when I'm nodding my head.
Right. So you need sugar during workout. So I was thinking maybe some sort of there would have to be some sort of mixture figured out, to have a perfect amount of honey, perfect amount of creatine. You could throw it into your gym bag, take it with you, take it post-workout, pre-workout. That's kind of the idea behind it. But going into it, so this is one of our athlete sponsors here. I'm going to play a video here. So there's going to be some audio.
Yeah, let's go for it. You go for it.
Yeah, there'll be some audio playing here.
during our interlude here. I'm going to.
This is Nick Debray with Absolute MMA, and I have with me here our new Absolute MMA welterweight champion, Christopher Bryan. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
What do you have in your hands there?
This is actually real deal honey, your finest honey in the town, I'd say even in the country. I'm just going to...
Well, awesome. No doubt this is one of your sponsors, and I'm sure it's delicious honey.
It is.
So you are the new champion.
Right. So he is the new welterweight champion, and
Is he the guy who hasn't lost in 8 competitions?
no, that is so he manages a bunch of fighters on top of doing fighting, and these are his fighters that he manages.
Okay.
Well, I don't exactly know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know the details. I just know that they're
Great. Okay.
they're
Okay.
in the
But this
same-
guy is a welterweight MMA, which is a mixed martial arts fighter. And so what it like, okay, I'm totally ignorant to this field. I really apologize. It's a cultural thing that I should know more about, but he looks like an awfully nice guy. He's well proportioned, looks muscular, looks like a very nice guy. So here he is holding a jar in this video of your real deal honey. You're a sponsor for him, and he is using that honey to build a better body. And of course, he's probably also practicing, and he probably has some innate talents for beating people up and stuff like that. But anyway, so yes.
So MMA, it got developed. It ramped up development in the 80s and 90s with the UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship. And it's essentially what it is. It's called mixed martial arts. So they bring together different forms of styles of fighting, to see which style of fighting is the best. And right now, I don't want to be cocky, but the people from the Caucasus regions are dominating the UFC. So wrestling is, if you're a really good wrestler and you know how to punch a little bit, you're doing good.
Wow.
Wrestling seems to be the really top contenders type style.
Okay. So
Yeah.
in this mix of martial arts,
Yes.
there is something similar to punching, boxing. There's something similar to wrestling. There are things similar to like karate, judo, kickboxing. Oh, you're allowed to do whatever you want to when you're out there.
There are rules. You can't, there are rules, but you can do any style of fighting, as long as it works for you.
Yeah. Well, for me, what would work the best would be to carry like maybe a crowbar, something made out of metal that I could swing really hard.
Oh, you would do great on WWE.
Yep. Okay. WWE, worldwide entertainment.
I thought about going on WWE and being the beekeeper, the killer beekeeper.
Yes.
And coming on with like Bret Hart from Calgary, but I'll be the beekeeper.
Yeah. Wasn't he great? Yeah. Okay. All right. I like this. You're really pushing out there with stuff. You've got a nice looking jar of honey. You're sponsoring somebody in a field that is growing and that you're interested in. And I'm really happy for you. This is great.
I just have a little clip to play of Chris's kind of the knock, his kind of final moment that won him the fight. And
okay,
so they have the footage of inside the octagon, and I'm actually on the outside also recording. So I have both footages playing simultaneously at the same time here. So we'll see.
Okay, let's see how that goes. All right.
So that's him. So he knocks him down in
So
the middle.
you're allowed to kick somebody with your knee in the part of their body that would hurt the most?
Yes. On the
Yeah.
ground, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And so that's him on the fight there. That's me on the big screen. Watch
I
it
see it,
update as it happens. And then
Fantastic.
I turn around right there on the right side is right when the fight happens. I get everybody cheering.
You've got a big audience in there too. Where was this at? Like where's your venue?
It was at Deerfoot Casino.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
just
congratulations.
Thank you. It was a really fun event, and I have just to show a little bit more of how where our honey setup was and how we were selling it.
Yes.
So this was
You even had the honey for sale right there.
yeah, we were
So
selling.
then you guys were flashed up there on the screen. Wow. I hope
right.
you were getting $100 a jar.
No,
Because
we were selling it for just $20 a jar.
Okay. Okay. You were being kind to the customers, which there's some merit to that. But that's great.
Yeah. And then we had it branded.
And look at that. You've got a couple of pretty girls there that are selling for you too. Whoa.
Yeah.
Bidzina, this is great. Yeah. So honey itself is just pure 100% raw honey?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. But you're thinking of packaging something more that, because carrying around a jar for that pick-me-up is, it's a little stickier than carrying around a bag of candy that you can munch on a chocolate bar with a little less fuss if you're, just coming out of an MMA event. So you're going to be moving on to that product too?
Eventually, we want to just start by, one value added product. Whatever that is, I want to have a value added product that a athlete can buy that will it's not just honey, but it's also extra. You're getting an extra bonus, and it's all in a one little packaged, easy, edible format.
You're brilliant. I like this. This is really good. Go for it. Do that. Unravel one at a time. See how it goes. Maybe because some people like to flood with like 20 different products, and then the customer doesn't know what to buy, and your salespeople are trying to make a case for each one, and people get confused. If you say this is the raw honey, and this is the fortified raw honey that has got the creatine boost inside of it, and it will do this and this and this for you.
That's right, exactly. And I've it's been really hard for me not to go crazy with the product lineup, because I have a tendency to do that. And my partner, he's been really the one that's kind of pushing hey, let's just focus one product at a time. And then we'll move on from that. So yeah, you're right. That is a really that I think it's a good tactic. Although if you have the money to expand, go right ahead. It's definitely harder to do it that way.
Well, you're growing. Shall I say it? You're growing organically.
Thank you. I actually, there's a saying: you want money, you want fame, you want everything, like anything good, you want it by through of an IV drip.
Ooh.
You don't want it.
Yeah.
You don't want to get it through like a lottery ticket, through like a fire hydrant, or you want.
I'd take it that way. Actually, I would take it that way too.
You take it a fire hydrant? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's the IV drip is important because you get a little taste incrementally, and once you're ready, then you can shine. But we all know about, it's just, so I it's slowly growing, but it's organically growing. And, nobody hears a tree grow in the forest. You don't hear.
No, you can certainly hear them fall over.
Yeah.
But you don't hear them kind of creaking and crunching and moving and growing up and up. You don't hear that part. You're right. You're right. You only hear it when they fall.
Yeah, and then exactly. And then you only see it once they're huge. That's when it becomes obvious. Oh, wow, look at that tree. I didn't notice how big it's gotten.
Yeah, it got there overnight. Overnight sensation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Good. So we're talking real deal honey, and it's a product that you produced from your own bees, and you bottled it up in an inspected or an inspectable or a certified kitchen. So it met all those standards. You were selling it, and you are not pricing it high enough to make people really stop and look at it. So you're being too kind to your customers. That's a common fault. You need to push that price a little bit, but congratulations.
Thank you. It's a great step in a forward direction. And, we had bigger plans. We were planning to do more events, but, we really got to take this slowly. There's no rush. And honestly, I'm still learning. And that, Einstein said, if I had 1 hour to solve the world's problems, I would spend 50 minutes planning and 10 minutes implementing.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah. So it's planning. It seems like, you've only done 10% of the work. You're planning. You're like, I've only gotten 10% of the progress, but really you've done 90% of the work once you've done the planning.
Right. And I think it was Einstein's best friend, Thomas Edison. I don't know if they even ever met, really, actually. They probably weren't friends, or they wouldn't have been. But anyhow, Edison, it was 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. So it's all that background work that you're talking about before you hit that big breakthrough. So, right. You know what? I think we're up to close to our limit here on our recording time. And this has been fantastic. Real deal honey. I see big things ahead in 2025 for Real Deal Honey. Everybody, thank you for listening. Glad you're with us. Be with us again next year, which is only a few days away now. We have one last episode that's going to chime in the new year, and we're going to put that out on New Year's Day. And so look forward to that coming up here in a couple more days. Meanwhile, I think I need a nap, or I need some creatine, or I need both. So, Bidzina, do you want to take us all home?
Yes. So thank you, everyone, for watching, and join us next year on all the platforms, audio or video, wherever you like. The world is your oyster.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, folks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. That was great.